Namaste. I had to show you what the little monster is doing. Hold on. I hope you can see that. He decided to sit on all the books I took out that I may use for this video. He sort of, I'm hoping the camera's catching it because I can't see. He's just decided that's where he's going to be. Okay, so typically I film horizontally, even though, all right, let's go. And, you know, just uncertainty of what's going to happen and uncertainty in the world in general that is affecting, I believe, everyone, even if we don't know it's affecting us. So I think in terms of whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, I feel that there's a lot of fear, a lot of stress, clearly, and a lot of anxiety out there in the world, for sure, right now. And I don't even mean just the last few weeks or even months. I think that a lot of people's actions come from a place of real fear and worry. And since those aren't particularly helpful, I thought I would add what I like to do, which is use my voice and use chants and maybe lead you in some chants. So actually, so when I picked up the pile of books that I showed you that, that the cat was on, now, of course he no longer is, I wanted to read briefly from a book called The Path of Practice by Brie Tiwari. And, oh, this is her on the back. I think that this picture is a couple of, maybe 10 years old. She actually healed herself of cancer, and through using Ayurveda and simple sort of traditional Vedic therapies and techniques, just food, breathing practices, and so on. So do recommend her. It's called The Path of Practice, a woman's book of healing with food, breath, and sound. She particularly focuses on women, but the techniques, a lot of the techniques would be applicable to men as well. So chapter 6, she's got the Vedic Art of Meditation. And there's a beautiful quote. She says that the rishis, the ancient seers whose inspired visions became the wellspring of Vedic tradition, called meditation the fundamental practice for everyday life. Okay, so these were, seers means that they literally, the idea was that they received this knowledge directly from the divine. So the rishis, they were called, they called meditation the fundamental practice for everyday life. They extolled it as the primary sadhana for exploring, developing, and expanding the mind. A sadhana means a spiritual practice, but it implies a discipline that you do it regularly, like daily, or, you know, depending on the practice, maybe it's every Friday or something, but it implies a regularity to whatever the practice is. So she's saying they extolled meditation as the primary sadhana for exploring, for developing, and for expanding the mind and its inner pathways of consciousness. So I just thought that was a beautiful little quote, and I opened to it, and I do think that things happen for a reason. So what I'd like to share with you are some chants, and the best way to use them is to, you could begin with chants and then meditate, or you could meditate for a few minutes, even just 5 minutes first, and then chant. Actually, so yeah, I would recommend chanting first, and then settling into meditation. So let's see. There are many, many different chants. I wanted to give you some peace chants, so I'm going to start with the most basic one, which is Om. And, you know, in the Eastern tradition, just Om is chanted a lot. It is believed to be a way to connect us with the divine, and there, you know, it's said that you can write volumes on the meaning of Om, and I'm gonna, when I pronounce it, I'm gonna pronounce it A-U-M, but even if you've seen it written O-M, the idea is that it's those three, the A, the A, Om, all together in terms of sounding it. So come up to sit nice and tall. I'm sitting on a meditation cushion, and if you're sitting on a cushion, you actually want your back to be a little bit arched. You can cross your legs however they're comfortable, or you can sit in a chair. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that your spine is straight. Your shoulders, a lot of us carry our shoulders up a little bit high, and it's very hard for us to actually release them. So if you tend to carry your shoulders high, it's going to be hard for you to release. You could try some simple shoulder shrugs, like bringing your shoulders up, holding them tense. Take a breath in and then drop them. When you drop them suddenly. So you don't do this and then like release, they won't go all the way down. You squeeze up to the maximum. This is the max that I can bring my shoulders. I'm squeezing, and then I suddenly, when I exhale, drop them down. Okay, so you could do that quickly too. Okay, and let's bring the palms together. Now, I'm not a big theoretical person, so I don't tend to get into a lot of long explanations, but because I really am more practical, but bringing the palms together in all cultures, right, is a symbol of prayer, and on a more physiological, more esoteric level, you're bringing the duality, the yin and yang together, and bringing it together in front of the heart. So you're sort of coming into unity. You might want to slightly lower your eyes. And just take a few breaths here. So this alone, if you're frazzled, you could just sit and bring your palms together in front of the center of the chest, the heart chakra, anahata chakra. Nice deep breath in, really, really deep breath, and then exhale, really deep exhale. Squeeze the belly in at the bottom of the exhale. Exaggerate your breathing. Very, very few of us are breathing as deeply as we could and should, because, I mean, the more oxygen you take in, right, the deeper the breath, the calmer, the more energized you're going to feel at the same time. Right? So you're going to feel centered and calm and yet have energy. And so less reliance on coffee and stimulants. And so I'm just going to chant Om 3 times. So take a breath in. Om. So that can be very centering. You want to hear the sound, the ah, more in the torso and the chest. The om moves through the throat. And then the final, when you close the mouth, the it's like a humming. And try to hear that really in the head and up to the third eye. You just want to sense that the sound moves from sort of the center of the body up through, up to the head. So let's do another chant that can be wonderfully calming. It's Om Namo Narayanaya. 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 So that's one chant you could try. Om Namo Narayanaya. And it is supposed to evoke the quality of peace, and it has, on a subtle level, it invokes the quality of water, and that is also part of the calming effect. So if you feel sort of overheated or angry, which is a type of a heat in the body, according to Ayurveda, and you can kind of feel it when you're angry. You feel, you know, the phrase hot-headed. Om Namo Narayanaya is a very calming chant. You could do that one. Another wonderful chant is the Gayatri Mantra, and it's a little bit long, and there are different forms to it. There's a long form and a short form, but I've found it a really, really beautiful mantra. Most mantras, even when you hear the meaning, like the literal meaning, that's almost like simplifying what the mantra really is about. So mantras don't exactly translate. The meaning is actually beyond just the translation, if that makes sense. So let me do the Gayatri Mantra. And my best, you know, I'm not Indian, and so I won't do it in sort of maybe the tones that someone who is Indian chanting like sort of native would do it, you know, like a Hindu priest would do it. I'm going to do it sort of with a Western, the way that I've heard it and said the mantra. And so it is correct, it's just a little bit more of a Western tone. Om Bhur Bhuvah Svah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yona Prachodaya. Om Bhur Bhuvah Svah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yona Prachodaya. Om Bhur Bhuvah Svah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yona Prachodaya. So that is the Gayatri Mantra. And to be sure I get it right, I'm going to read you the translation. And as I said, it means more than the translation. The translation is almost like if somebody asked you what does chocolate taste like and you described it versus having them taste the chocolate. So let's see. This is one translation. O self-effulgent light that has given birth to all the lokahs. Lokahs are spheres of consciousness. Who is worthy of worship and appears through the orbit of the sun, illumine our intellect. So that's one variation. I've heard, you know, similar translations. In fact, let me look for another one. So this one is, O self-effulgent light, and light is capitalized, that has given birth to all the lokahs, the spheres of consciousness, who is worthy of worship and appears through the orbit of the sun, illumine our intellect. That's one translation into English of the Gayatri. So that translation was from Healing Mantras, Thomas Ashley Farrand, which is a wonderful book. But I'm going to read you another translation from the Yoga of Sound by Russell Paul. And the Yoga of Sound, the subtitle is Tapping the Hidden Power of Music and Chant. So in the West, we just think of music as pure entertainment. Basically, almost anything in life has a quality that affects us, okay? So meaning certain types of sounds, anything, a color, a temperature, everything has an effect, right? And so music and chant, the sounds themselves have an effect on us that is said to be elevating and purifying. And so I feel like that is needed so much now. And in our culture that maybe, you know, when we think of hymns or singing a hymn is the closest we come to that. So the N is the same idea, that you are connecting into the divine. So their translation is, salutations to that sacred sound present in the earth, the heavens, and that which is beyond. May the glorious splendor of that divine life illuminate our meditation. So that's another translation. Now, there's some more that I've heard that I think are even more beautiful, so I'm going to give you one more translation of the Gayatri Mantra. Yeah. And then I'll read you a little bit more about what he's saying about Russell Paul, what he's saying about Gayatri. Hi, so from my meditation and mantras, from Swami Vishnu Devananda, and he was one of the gurus in the Shivananda lineage, Swami Vishnu Devananda. He has passed on. The translation he gives is, we meditate on that Ishvara's glory, who, and the who is capitalized, who has created the universe, who is fit to be worshipped, who is the embodiment of knowledge and light, who is the remover of all sins and ignorance. May he enlighten our intellects. So you can see some are very sort of specific and some are a little more generalized. So it's pretty fascinating. Now the Gayatri is a verse of specific length and meter. So there are Gayatris to different deities in the Eastern Vedic tradition. But when one says the Gayatri Mantra, they mean the Om Bhurabhuvasva Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Na Prachodayat. And that is considered very, very holy in the Hindu tradition. And the first time I heard it, I was just like, wow, I was bowled over and really felt this profound connection to it. So let's see. Lokah samastha sukhino bhavanthu. And so the final mantra I'm going to do in this video, and this is just like a little taster. See what appeals to you and let me know in the comments. And what I can do is do the chant and then lead a meditation after for each different chant. But let me know if you want that. Okay, so leave a comment. So this one is beautiful, and you've heard some of these if you take yoga classes. Yoga classes that aren't just like aerobic exercise and about toning your butt. Of course, there are many ways to tone your butt. To diminish yoga to just being about toning your thighs or, firming your abdomen, and that's all wonderful, it's said to be like, is if you discovered a shell and you just saw the seashell and just loved the outside of it and didn't open it up and realize that there was a beautiful pearl inside. Or if you took the pearl and threw the pearl away and just kept the shell. Okay, and that's sort of what we're doing with yoga in the West. And it's a big part of the reason I lost interest in teaching yoga is because at a certain point in my own life, I started to lose interest in it just as a physical, because I didn't see myself as like an exercise teacher. It was really the spirituality. Anyway, so this is a Vedic mantra, and the means, may our world be established with well-being and happiness. And so you've probably chanted this in yoga class if they still include such things. And like I said, this is like the most important part of the yoga. The physical aspect, of course, is huge. That's what it's meant to do. Yoga is meant to tone the body and purify the subtle body, the nerves, allow the prana to circulate. So that's great. At a certain point, it is meant to lead you into meditation and higher states of consciousness. Just saying. Okay. So Russell Paul says of this mantra that I'm going to chant for you, it's an eloquent yogic prayer that treats the whole world as our own body. At this time in history, when our planet is being ravaged by industrial exploitation and sickened by voluminous quantities of toxic waste, this prayer is especially appropriate. Okay. Chant it at least once a day. Thrice in succession is preferable. Okay. I like that he says thrice. We don't usually say thrice in English. Whenever possible, chant it with a group. Okay, so I'm going to make your group. Okay, putting this out. So I'll do it 3 times. Lokah samastha sukhino bhavanthu. Lokah samastha sukhino bhavanthu. Lokah samastha sukhino bhavantu. So let me know if you're interested in me breaking out the individual chants and expanding on them a little bit. See which one of these appeals to you, and let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll do more if you like the chants. They are really part of the yoga. Okay, they're part of the yogic tradition. There is the hatha yoga, the physical aspect, and then the chanting is definitely part of it. It is part of the mysticism and the spirituality of the yoga tradition, of like the authentic yoga tradition. So yeah, I invite you to leave a comment, let me know which one you liked, or if there's another chant that, or mantra that you find invokes a quality of peace in you that you'd like to share. Okay, namaste.